So for example, with some types of colon cancer, we have extremely accurate tests to tell whether you would inherit a risk of colon cancer by virtue of having inherited a damaged gene from one or the other of your parents. We have the same kind of tests for breast cancer. We have them for a variety of disorders that children are born with. Now, those offer huge promise, in my opinion, for affecting the health of our friends and neighbors all around the world. But in most cases, we're not quite there yet. I think it's going to happen over the next 10 to 20 years when we'll have very accurate tests to say whether, for example, I might have a risk of high blood pressure and somebody else has a risk of colon cancer and somebody else has a risk of heart attacks. Right? And we'll be able to tell that way in advance and then hope that they can make changes that will lower those risks. The bad news about genetic testing is the ones that are available today, particularly through the internet or even publicized in the newspaper sometimes, really aren't reliable. You'll find them that purport to tell you what sort of diet you should eat in order to lose weight or to control your blood pressure or many, many other desirable goals. There really just is no scientific validity to those tests now. I hope there will be, but they're not. So I would recommend to people that you not sign up for tests on the internet or through any other advertising medium, but really to discuss it with your physician or if referred by the physician or someone else, with a genetic counselor who could tell you how you might use that information and whether it's likely to be valid or not. Athletic ability, for example, the ability to run fast or to jump high or even how tall you might be for basketball players, are a group of traits that we would say in genetic talk. And certainly, many of our traits are genetically determined. We know that great athletes tend to have offspring who are better than average athletes, right? So yes, there's something to it. I don't think the tests that are there so far are comprehensive enough or accurate enough to warrant getting one of those tests. Well, breast cancer is one of the areas where we do have really good tests now that will give a woman her lifetime risk of breast cancer. And I say women specifically. Of course, men can get breast cancer, but the tests aren't designed really for them. And this means these are parts of your makeup that you were born with, that you inherited from your parents. And those now are very accurate. They come from several sources. I'm proud to say that at the Oklahoma Medical Research Foundation, we helped invent one of those. The OncoView test really came from technology first begun here. And even though we don't run that research now, we think it's a very good test. So those are powerful tests that can really help a woman manage her health. By that I mean, we know that the average risk for all women is about 10%. We could argue it's 9 or 11% risk, lifetime risk of breast cancer. But that's an average. Some women are at much, much higher risk, maybe 70 or 80% risk lifetime, and others have almost no risk. And these tests can now begin to tell you whether you're in that really high group or really low group. Now, the importance of that, obviously, if you knew you were in a really high-risk group, you would make different choices many times in life, including something as relatively simple as having mammograms more frequently, more regular checkups, more attention to that early diagnosis at a minimum, and even perhaps other changes. These tests sometimes are covered by insurance. For example, some of the breast cancer tests are specifically covered by insurance, some for colon cancer. In general, the ones that have been very well proven scientifically and are in common medical use, and those tend to be in cancer-related areas, although not exclusively, those usually are reimbursed by insurance. The farther away you go from those criteria, the rigorous scientific proof, the less likely they are to be reimbursed.
They could range from several hundred to several $1,000s depending on the test.
The tests are generally expensive, and they range from hundreds of dollars to many thousands of dollars.